Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and I'm sure I sound 1,000 times better than last week. It's actually been probably about a week and a half since I recorded that episode, which is a good thing. I did not feel great, and if you've watched my updates and everything, you probably know that, but I really apologize for last week, episode 2. That episode, the only silver lining of that, well, two silver linings. One, it was a great episode, and Bocchi the Rock is wonderful, and I'm having so much fun with it. But the other silver lining is it definitely, that episode, because I've recorded when I haven't felt well before. I really have. Over the past 4 years, I've recorded like on some days where I had like a little bit of a headache, or maybe if my voice was scratchy. I think last year around this time I had something similar happen, and I just worked through it, and I was like, it'll be fine. Bocchi the Rock episode 2 was a massive wake up call of, girl, you need to stop and let yourself heal. So, if it was the silver lining for that reason, that's fine. But I am very glad that I feel a lot better. My voice is pretty much back almost to 100%. I love Bocchi the Rock, so of course I was excited to dive into this episode. Now, I do have some comments I want to talk about. Episode 1 has premiered on YouTube, on Patreon, and so I've got comments from Patreon episode 1. Next week, I'll be able to dive into episode 1 on YouTube and 2 on Patreon comments. So I'm excited for that. So thank you so much for your intense support already. People are going crazy about this series. And I was like, oh, all right. So I'm excited, one, that they've confirmed a season 2. That's exciting. And 2, that this series is getting such reception and feedback, because I love talking about this show with you all. So I'm super excited to dive into it. But let's go ahead and look at, I've got 5 comments from episode 1 that I want to dive into and talk with you all about. The first one is from Pantsu Box, 3 X's, 859, saying, I'm glad you started watching this. It's my second favorite show in the new decade, which is such a wild thing to say, after Freerun. And guess what? They're both done by the same director. That's so much fun. I love Freerun Beyond Journey's End. I really enjoyed that show. I'm glad that it's getting a season 2 starting January of 2026. I'm going to be so excited for it when it comes out. That's amazing. But yeah, that's really cool to know they have the same director, which the humor in this series is so fun. I can't wait to see what more they do with it. But in a way, I kind of can connect it to Freerun a little bit without spoiling anything about Freerun. They are very different shows. So if you think you're going to watch Freerun Beyond Journey's End and it's going to be like Bocchi the Rock, oh no. They are very different shows, but they are both equally enjoyable, at least so far with Bocchi and definitely with Freerun. So I do have reactions to Freerun on my channel if you want to give those a spin whenever you're done. But yeah, that's really cool. I like that they have the same director, so thank you for letting me know that. Second, Kelvin says for episode 1, about their names, the subtitles put their given names first, as opposed to the traditional Japanese family name first. So her given name is Satori, and her family name is Goto. Same with Rio, that's her given name, and same with Najika. That makes things, Rio, I know characters from other anime whose given names are Rio, so that was kind of me throwing me off when I was like Yamada, but Rio, but you never know, because I mean, like with English names, it can be the same thing, right? So that is good to know. Rio rolls off the tongue a lot better than Yamada, and I just like calling Bocchi, but Ichichi, I just like saying that name, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so that's good to know. So thank you, Kelvin, for pointing that out, because sometimes that sort of nuance escapes me. So I'm glad that you all are helping me keep it 100. Alexander Q says, being super shy is hard. Yes. But I think Bocchi, with all her awkwardness and social anxiety, is really brave for still wanting to give it a try and putting so much effort into it, even if it doesn't work 90% of the time. Not everyone can do that, but really that is half the battle, I think. Yes, from someone that works at the college level in higher education and talks with a lot of students that are 17, 18 years old, or even people that are my age, even people in their 20s or 30s, there is such a push in our culture, at least in the United States, such a push to not fail and to not have any sense of failure, or that sense that if you fail at one thing, it's going to snowball into the end of your existence, that it does limit people from trying and from trying new things, from being bold, from taking risks, even small risks, because they're afraid that it's not going to pay off. And I feel like Bocchi is such an inspiration, because she's like, yeah, if you fail, then you just treat it like a learning experience and you move on from it. Like last week, I realized that it was a bad idea and I failed to get my voice right for that reaction, but I learned from it. I took some time off and now I'm back and with a voice again. So sometimes you just have to fail and learn from it and realize what your mistake was and just keep trying. And Bocchi is so inspirational for keeping on trying. I love that about her character so far. So I agree. I really think it's half the battle for sure. Alex Cornejo says, I love that you immediately recognize that it's a Gibson. It flies over most people's heads that she's not getting her start on just some guitar, but a really fancy one. Now, I told Alex Cornejo that is honestly because of Given, because of the series Given, which you should watch Given. It's so good. But that series did teach me a lot about guitars, and people in the comments for Given taught me a lot about guitars. So I really owe all of that to them. I'm not a music person. I can't play an instrument. I can barely play piano. So I really owe it to the people in the comments for giving me that info. Specifically, it's a Gibson Black Beauty. In my book, the most gorgeous guitar ever. It is beautiful. The real thing is like $6,000, not on the cheap Japanese salaryman budget. So I told Alex this speaks so much to me because what this means is, one, that guitar is like a heirloom, a passion project item of her dad. Her dad, their house doesn't look super fancy and they don't look like they got lots of crazy rich people stuff. So it's like that was a investment. That was something that her dad values, wanted, saved up money for. That's his pride and joy. But also what that means is it speaks so much to me that he gave the guitar to Bocchi to practice on. Like he trusted her, had faith, supported her. And that means so much because a lot of parents would probably be like, oh no, this is my pride and joy. Here, you get this like shitty guitar to start with. But he trusted her with it and he knew she would take care of it. And I'm like, that is such a good example of this show showing and not telling that I'm all about that. I'm like, yes, good job, show. You did good. So I really love that. That's so cool. But damn, a $6,000 guitar. Huh. So finally, Floor talked about in their comment just the idea about how some people can be really socially anxious and really shy talking in public, but then they find a place to perform at and it comes more naturally. So they're like, one thing I absolutely loved was public speaking. I couldn't talk to a person my age, but if you put me in front of a crowd, I bloomed open. All this is to say that I get it in episode 1. Yeah, and I coach public speaking competitively, and there are some people that they are just naturally introverts. They're super shy in public. They just don't, they're not extroverted people. Now, that's not to say there aren't extroverts. There are, but it's so cool to see people kind of find their niche and their footing. I know people that they're so super shy in person when you talk to them, but then on a stage, they're like belting out a song and like acting because it's a persona. It's a way to like embody someone else. And for some people, that allows them to give an outlet to their creativity that they don't find in public in the rest of society. So that's really cool. And I'm glad you brought that up. So thank you. All this is to say on my end is that I'm really liking Bocchi and I was really excited to get to episode 3. So thank you all so much for the comments. I'm looking forward to reading them as we get deeper into the series. So it's going to be a fun time. All right, y'all. I'm excited. We're not going to waste any more time. We are going to start episode 3 of Bocchi the Rock and see what we get. And we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh my gosh, this was adorable. I love this episode so much. I want to get back on here and get all that out of there. The humor of this show, I see why y'all like it because the humor was so funny. There were so many moments I was like, this is the most hilarious thing I've seen all week. I was living. So let's talk about this. Kita, damn. I had a whole different perception of what Kita was going to be like, and it was not this. If you had asked me what I thought Kita was going to be like, I thought Kita, And I do think I'm basing a lot of this on Puella Magi Monica Magica because it has a red-haired character in that series. I was expecting Kita to be a lot more aggressive. I was expecting her to be a lot more kind of like sour and kind of like, I don't know, like a lot more like standoffish. Because right now, Rio is probably the most down to earth and like chill character. She's the lone wolf. She's chill. She's like whatever, but she's like can handle herself. And then Ijichi is like she's so hyped up extrovert, like sunshine and rainbows. And then Bocchi is like our relatable, has social anxiety but wants to be popular and kind of like expresses a lot of feelings that we ourselves probably have. And then I expected Kita to be kind of like the sourpuss of the group. She's not. And I was like, whoa, okay. She's just like an extrovert like Ijichi, but she's like chaotic extrovert. And she combines qualities of Ijichi and qualities of Bocchi as well. And it just makes for such an intriguing character. And I did not see that coming at all. I was fully anticipating her being a totally angsty, brooding character. But Bocchi's angsty and brooding enough for us that I guess that's what we're going to get. But yeah, I did not expect that at all with her character. I was really pleasantly surprised. So we start out, we have the newspapers coming in for the family, the departure of flamingos from Enoshima, and then penguins appear in Tama River. There's a lot of birds going on. It says, they're okay in freshwater? And then a recruiting part-time. Interesting. The recruiting part-time is fun. But yeah, so Bocchi is getting better. Her cold is going away. I've channeled Bocchi as well. We're both getting better, as it were. But I love when she's sitting there trying to brush the one strand of hair, which I literally have to get my hair wet every day because if I just sleep in it, I know a lot of people use dry shampoo and stuff, but my hair does like Bocchi, like it'll just be all messed up and I can sit there and brush it all day long and it won't do anything. I like how, ironically, Bocchi's sitting here worried about the one strand of hair that's sticking out. Her sister literally has strands of hairs. I guess they're maybe like little mini pigtails sticking out, but her sister seems like she's pretty well adjusted. She seems a little bit more extroverted than Bocchi, which is fun. And she's like, well, I thought you didn't want to go to school. And she's like, well, I don't really like school, but I need to go. Otherwise, I'm going to be, forgotten by my classmates. My whole point is to open up to them. She's like, I could burst from the sheer volume of nuisance I inflict upon myself. Some of her monologues are so freaking funny that they are hilarious. Some of her monologues are so funny and they just crack me up. And then her facial expressions and the way that there's a moment in Jujutsu Kaisen season 1 where the main character kind of becomes this little wiggly version of himself. Ain't got nothing on Bocchi. That was so funny. And what I love about her is that she wants to be popular and she wants to get over her introversion and become more social. And my dogs are going to be crazy. But she wants to get over that, but she just struggles. I love the idea of the lobster. There's just lobsters randomly for some reason. I don't know why. There's dancers, gymnasts, and lobsters, and a PE teacher. We're not going to question why. But my thing is, girl, has a Gibson. A Gibson. Right there at her desk. And you're trying to tell me that nobody in that class is remotely curious as to what's up with that guitar? That to me is the most unrealistic aspect about this show. It's really one of the only unrealistic aspects is that girl has a freaking bitchin' guitar and nobody's asking any questions. I mean, if you showed the characters at that school asking her and her retreating and just shying away, then I could understand them ignoring her. But you mean to tell me that nobody's come up to her and asked? What? No. And she tries to ignite in some conversation with the other two girls in her class, but then she doesn't know what to say. And then, of course, she comes to the wrong conclusion and thinks that they are judging her when really they were just probably okay, she forgot what she was going to say. It seems like the class is somewhat self-aware that Bocchi's shy. And they are very aware that she doesn't talk, but they probably, again, going back to the first episode, they probably assume that she doesn't want to talk to anyone and she wants to be left alone. And so they're being respectful. And maybe that's why nobody's come up and asked her. But it's like, you would think. The thing is that there's a disconnect between the classmates thinking she doesn't want to be bothered and Bocchi wanting them to bother her. So I also thought her sitting under the staircase was kind of hilarious, because usually you think of like her sitting on the stairs, but she's gone even a step below that. She's even further. She's like behind equipment in a stairwell. And she's like, and here's the thing. She's like, once I become a popular guitarist, I'll go on an Odo station. And she's in this beautiful red dress. The interviewer's the guitar persona with the shades, which is adorable, being like, what were you like in high school? And she's like, oh, I didn't have any friends. And I ate in this dark place under the stairs with desks and janitorial supplies. And everybody will be like, oh my gosh. And she's like, I can awe people with how much I've changed. And there's a part of me that can relate to that, because I remember being in middle school, like 8th grade, and we had to like do a picture of ourselves of what we would look like 10 years later, which would have been, I would have been like 12 or 13. So it'd be like, when you're 23, what would you have been? And I remember drawing myself, and I was like in a suit, and I had like long hair, and I was like, and I just looked really confident in that picture. And that was kind of like a representation, because in middle school especially, which I think a lot of us can relate to, middle school, I was not a confident person. And so like, you imagine yourself in this scenario, you know, years or so later where you believe that age and maturity will give you the confidence that you don't have at the current time, which does happen for a lot of people, myself included. But, you know, in her case, it's like you do have to do stuff in the present to get to that point. And that kind of translates to Kita. And Kita has been practicing the guitar, which is good. It's like you got to practice and do stuff now for it to pay off later, which is, you know, I like that she's imagining herself in the interview, which is fun. So they talk about Kita being a good singer. She played guitar in a band before she quit. And I love that don't try this at home, kids, where she's like sitting on top of she's sitting on the banister, like listening to everything, and she's stacked the desks on top of each other. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. Come to think of it, Nijika-chan was talking about wanting a new guitar / vocalist. Nijika, yeah. Okay, so that's her name. Nijika, I just like Ichiki. I just like the other name, but yeah, Nijika. I like that Rio is like the most chill and casual about everything, even when someone is possibly obsessing over them. And of course, I like that Nijika has this bright poster. She's using color theory appropriately. Yellows, reds, things that draw our attention. Girl knows her color theory. She's doing great. Recruiting a guitar and vocalist. Even newbies can come and learn. Like, whenever Kita was like, oh, well, I don't know how to play the guitar, I don't know how effective I'll be in the band, I'm like, the poster literally said newbies could come and learn. Like, they're pretty desperate. They're like, we'll teach you to play guitar or sing as long as you're motivated, which is fun. Like, what kind of girl is she? And so then these other two girls are like, I have a huge favor to ask. And she's like, what is it? So Kita seems like the type of person that is wanting to be helpful. Because the one girl is saying, would you mind pitching in a basketball game next week? And she's like, oh, sure thing. So she definitely wants to get involved, and she's extroverted and super nice. And of course, Bocchi is like, oh my God, she's pretty. She's great. This is perfect. She's like, maybe I'll land a 3-pointer. She's pretty athletic, popular, and she plays the guitar. I thought those were mittens she was wearing, but it was just the way they drew her hands, which is funny. And then I like Bocchi being like, my identity is crumbling. She's like, she's perfect. And then there's like the balloon popping. The actual footage of real life footage that they inserted in her monologues was so damn funny. I was losing it. It was so good. But yeah, Bocchi, like, Kita is everything that Bocchi aspires to be, except she just is, right? And I like that Kita's kind of self-aware that she's there. And finally, and here's the thing, whenever Bocchi like just gives out the little bloop, the little sound, she's like, oh, are you beatboxing? And Kita tries to like be like bum chicka boom boom chicka. Like, she tries to like meet her halfway and get on her level. And at that point, I was like, oh, you are not what I thought you were, because she's so nice and so inviting and she wants to be friendly. And it's just such a relief because Bocchi needs people like that as a support system. And then, of course, she's like, two more additions to my dark past. The song that she sings, Double Dark Past, the Bocchi acoustic version. Like, the music is so good and her voice was so gorgeous. But she's like, multiplying traumas. I want to ditch this negative legacy I carry. The secret tears that are brought to my eyes, mourning my past, and like all the footage. Oh my God. And then she has like the little tear on a guitar. And then Kita's like, that was awesome. I just love it. I love that it also is a great reminder to us that the grass is not always greener on the other side, because Bocchi kind of like envies how extroverted and easy it is for Kita to just relate to people and to just be herself. But then Kita does know how to play guitar, and she kind of envies Bocchi for having these skills and being self-taught for the most part. And so, you know, it just kind of goes to show that everybody has certain things that they wish they had, but then the other person thinks the exact same thing of them. So it was just, there was a lot of good lessons in this episode. And then I'm also glad that, of course, Bocchi is like the extrovert aura. I can't look straight at her, the Kit aura. So I'm really glad that they fixed all of this in one episode where they didn't drag it out and make it a thing. But we found out I wasn't getting enough out of that little tiny opening there. But we find out from Kita that she was originally in Rio's band, but she lied and said she could play guitar. And then it turns out that she can't, but she can sing. And so she ran away because she was afraid they were going to get mad at her for deceiving them. So I'm glad they resolved all of this in one episode, because at first I was like, okay, she was in a different band. She was in Rio's band. Okay, she's worried about them getting mad at her. They didn't get mad at her. Okay, she doesn't want to get in the band because she's afraid that it's just not going to work out. They resolved all of the miscommunication and all of the things in one episode. And I was like, thank you, God. That made me so happy, because I was like, if there's one thing that can get annoying in an anime, it is dragging needless miscommunication out. Like, I understand angst. I understand conflict. I understand episodes where characters need moments in between to heal, but we did not need that. So I was like, thank you for not dragging it out and making us have to deal with that. I love Bocchi also. Bocchi has grown so much, and I don't think she even realizes it, because like 2 episodes ago, Bocchi would not be having this conversation with Kita. She'd be a puddle and not being able to speak. But here she comes out to Kita and says, oh, you know, I'm kind of a nerd, but the others are cool. And then she's like, no, it's not a you thing. It's me. And she's like, oh, they're holding a barbecue next weekend, which was super cute. They're hosting a sports meet every 6 months, because she thinks that will appeal to Kita because she likes, you know, sports. And then she's like, and they party in limousines after every gig, which is not true. And she's like, I'm not really into partying that much. But she's like, I was in another band not too long ago, but I need to learn to play the guitar first. And then she asked Bocchi to teach her. And Bocchi's little squiggly form is just hilarious. She's like, well, I have a job after school. And she's like, well, teach me after the job. Oh, well. It's so good. And she immediately wants to start. I love, she says, please come to work today blaring EDM and dancing around with energy drinks. And I love that Rio and her are like, what? No. So freaking good. But yeah. And so again, I'm glad that Bocchi encourages her not to run away and to face her fears, Kita's fears of being with EGT and Rio again. Also, I'm glad that they don't take it too personally. I'm glad that they're like, oh, you ran away, but it's totally fine. Like, it's okay. We need a guitarist. Let's go. Like, I thought that was nice that they didn't drag it out and make, because all of these characters are so sweet. I'm glad they didn't like drag it out and make anybody be like mean for no reason. Also, Mobster Hamaji instead of Monster Energy is really funny. The fake product placement, love it. And so they're like, oh, we were worried we didn't hear from you. I love Rio. Held a memorial for her and said that she lit incense, which who knows if Rio's being serious or not. Her with the weeds and everything, there is no way to know if Rio's being serious or not. And it's kind of hilarious. But I was like, that's amazing. I'm like, girl, she was lighting incense for you. You have a chance. You have a chance, Kita. I also want to look at all these posters that are on the side of the wall because I feel like they change a little bit each episode. So there's like a come with Kali Kali Oishihi. There's like a cup of some kind of thing. There's Neko. Then there's like the Coke Rock show that has like the lasers coming out of the rooster. Hilarious. Like, what the fudge? But yeah, they're like, let me make it up to you. The sister's immediately like, I know how you can make it up to us. You're going to work this event tonight because we got a lot of people coming. And no offense to Bocchi, but girl's introverted and she's still learning. Like, it does. I feel like introverts, I perform introversion as my job, but I'm definitely an introvert at heart because I would rather just be a homebody and just like soak in my energy at home. When I'm in crowds, I'm just kind of like my coach and my co-coach that I work with and my best friend are both kind of extroverted, and they invited me to like this show the other night, and it was like at this public venue, and it was fun. I enjoyed it, but I definitely felt the anxiety of being around all these people and was like, and I just kind of don't know what to do, so I'm just kind of like soaking it all in, like, yep, and just people watching. So I feel like people that are naturally extroverted have kind of a benefit in that they feed off of other people's energies. And so the more people that are around, the more hyped up they get, which for a venue like a concert would be great because then you keep your energy going. You're like, yes, you can do this. I can do that. And if you have people skills and you can talk in front of people, that's a bonus because that will get you far. Also noticing that while the sister is like hiring Kita for this, Ichiji has like one, Nijika has like one energy drink, but Rio's already downed 3. Girl is already chugging them to get ready for tonight. And so they make her put on a maid costume, which I don't know why they had her dress in a maid costume when but I guess the others had the skirt and stuff and they were more presentable than Kita, I guess. But they're like, this way she can't just walk out and leave because she has the maid costume on. Now, the dark-haired girl that's behind the soundboard, like sniffing Kita's hair, is she like, I know what you are? She's like, I am too. We'll see. I also like how openly Kita's just like, no, I love Rio, and I'm here to get her attention. And Bocchi's like, oh, cool, neat. So, but I love that Bocchi gets so mad. She's like, the one girl never notices me before, and I never get to do reception. And it's like, well, no, you don't get to do reception, Bocchi, because you can't talk to people. I love when she's in the trash can, though, just writing out Kita on the floor. God, I love the trash bin is like her comfort zone where she retreats to if she doesn't want to like be around people. And then she just pulls the guitar out. The humor is so on brand. I love it. And it's like the elegy of a part-time worker who lost her identity to the just arrived newbie. Love it. I love it so much. And the little spirit rising above Rio. God, it's funny. And then it cuts to her being like, we haven't known each other for long. And it's like, thanks for watching, everyone. And like the creator like draws the image, but I enjoyed the precious time we spent together. God, it's so funny. It's so funny. So meanwhile, Ijichi is like, hey, you know what? Teach Kita how to do drinks because you've done that. She's like, oh, I can do this. But instead she ends up pouring the coffee all over her hand. Now, Kita like helps her out, gets her the bandage and the little handkerchief on her hand, which is super cute. I love it. It has the strawberries on it. And that's when Bocchi notices her hands are calloused. Because if you practice guitar, your fingers get calloused from all the practice. But Kita doubts herself, which is interesting because Bocchi is so not necessarily envious, but she does envy how extroverted and how easy things seem to come for Kita. But then by the end of the episode, Kita reminds us that just because she's an extrovert and interacting with people is easy, she still has a lot of self-doubt like Bocchi does. And Bocchi kind of has to remind her, like, no, you've worked hard. You definitely deserve to be a part of the band. Like, I love that just because you're extroverted doesn't mean you are immune to having doubts about oneself. Now, Bocchi doesn't want to appear selfish or have her agenda appear self-motivated. So she says she's like, in the band for world peace, which is funny. But then she's like, well, why are you wanting to be the band? And Kita immediately, polar opposite, is like, oh, unlike you, I have very impure motives. And I was like, oh, and I'll be honest, y'all, I thought I had a ship forming between Kita and Bocchi, which could sail, it could end up sailing, who knows? I thought I had that ship going. And then the moment we got this scene where she's talking about her impure motives with Rio, I was like, oh, never mind. This is the ship that's going to play. She's like, her above all attitude. She looks so right holding an instrument. Mm-hmm. And Bocchi's like, man, we became best friends. And then immediately, bye-bye, buddies. I'll know my place next time. As she like goes to talk to the other person. I thought I recognized that person's voice actor, but who knows? So yeah, apparently Rio was in a band before, and then she quit that band and joined this one. So I have a feeling that information, I feel like it's been brought up with the sister previously, so that might come into play later, but then Nijika talks about them all being a family in a band, or at least Kita brings it up while Nijika and Rio are talking. A mysterious relationship where you're closer than friends or significant others. I've always wanted to be a part of that. And I can understand that, relate to it, because even in the team that I coach, I feel like if you're on any type of team, whether it's athletic or not, it's like y'all are more than friends. You're kind of like siblings. You are a family in the craziest way possible. And it's kind of neat. It's like it's a relationship that goes beyond just knowing each other like a friend, which is fun. And she's like, I wanted to be Senpai's girl, so much deeper and more intimate than friendship. She's like, I don't know if Rio would want me as a girlfriend, but this is more than just friendship, so I'll take it. And I'm like, interesting. I mean, I've watched Given. I've seen how this can go down. So then we have, I like that we go back to seeing the stuff in the sink and everything. She's like, that's all the more reason I can't join the band. I flaked out once. I'm too irresponsible. Which is kind of cool. I like that Kita acknowledges her weaknesses. She's like, sometimes I flake out and I can be irresponsible despite how I seem put together. So she doesn't think that she's worthy of being in the band. And I kind of love that Bocchi's like, but you kind of are worthy because I flaked out originally too. I played my first concert in a cardboard box on a stage. You clearly are probably better than that. So I like that Bocchi expresses to her that no, we all have had those moments. Just because you've had that moment doesn't mean that you are undeserving of all of this. She's like, no, it's fine. She's like, you deserve to be here just like anybody else. You've clearly put in the work. And I think it says so much for Bocchi, even though she said it underneath a tarp. Even though I think it says a lot for her that even though it's not perfect, she did make a lot of strides in this episode to overcome a lot of her fears and become more and more confident. Like, girl, you're building up your character origin story. You're building up all of your achievements one bit by bit from under a tarp, from under a cardboard box to under a tarp. Like, it's getting better. It's getting better all the time. And I love that Rio and Ichichi kind of lift her up so that she can speak even better. Like, they help prop her up as support. She's like, you've been practicing guitar really hard. She's like, if you hadn't flaked out, we would have never all met. So it kind of worked out. And then I like that Nijica's like, I've always wanted to have a band. And it's intimidating, but I think you should give it a try, and then Bocchi can teach you. And then Rio's like, well, I would only have to pay 1/4 of the studio and quota fees. So, 4 people is cheaper than 3. And of course, that then Kita's like, oh my God, I could be part of Senpai's quota. And I'm like, yes, you could. As a matter of fact, you could. They're like, so much for that healthy moving on thing. No, I think the girl's just as obsessed with Rio as she's ever been. So Bocchi's going to teach her. And she's like, I'm going to work really hard to play guitar. But you should give up that party lifestyle that you have. Love it. And yeah, this episode, I loved the fact that it was messy. But in the same vein, I really liked the fact that Bocchi helped Kita to be able to overcome her own anxiety to join back the band. I'm like, that says a lot for you, Bocchi girl. Girl, that says a lot for you. Come on now. And at the end, she's like, I really, it was honestly nothing. I just, sure, keep praising me. Bocchi has a praise kink. Bocchi has a praise kink. Girl wants to get acknowledged with kind words. And that's when they realized the guitar that she's been playing was a 6-string bass. Her face when she realized it was a 6-string bass is amazing. That might be the thumbnail. Because it's kind of hilarious. I kind of love it. But I also love the fact that Rio bought it off of her. Like, Rio didn't have to do that. But when she talks about the fact, she's like, it cost me 2 years allowance from my dad to save up and buy it. I thought that was an interesting difference as well. The fact that she started out, you have Bocchi, whose dad just gave her a $6,000 guitar and was like, here you go. Versus Kita, who saved up 2 years of allowance and all her extra money to buy the wrong guitar. And so they officially have all their members. And then something else that's really funny is that after selling the bass to Rio, who now has no money, as she says, she has to start out with like a regular guitar. I also really like that Kita has like the little pink strawberry handkerchief and all the frills and everything, which is not what I expected. And then you have Bocchi with like the black punk case. Like, Kita and Bocchi are so polar opposites. I kind of root for them as a ship, but then Rio and Kita are also polar opposites, so I root for them as a ship. So it's like, and then, Nijika, but I still kind of like Rio and Nijika, so who knows? Who knows? And then Bocchi's like, are we breaking up already? Like, I like that Kita does give up fairly easily, but it doesn't take much to get her motivated to keep trying again. She's like, I need to do my best. And again, Bocchi is talking more and more with her, which is great. When she gave me the money, this is the last of my money, so I'll be eating weeds from now on. I think Rio just has the darkest sense of humor, and I kind of love it. And Bocchi's like, look, I knew it was hard to learn these chords back when I started, but it's okay. We'll teach each other. Senpai is wild. And the best part is Kita, who was initially worried about Rio not having money eating weeds, she like, it's like goldfish brain. She was immediately over it and already like all about Rio right after that. So this episode was hilarious. I'm so glad we got Kita in the band. I'm glad that didn't take long. I'm glad she's here. I'm glad she's learning from Bocchi. She is nothing like I imagined her being in this episode, and that's kind of the best thing ever. And this episode was hilarious. I just had so much fun with it. So I'm really excited to hear your thoughts down below about Kita joining the band and about Rio's sense of humor and Bocchi's strides that she's making as a person. I just love it, but I can't wait to hear your thoughts down below. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm back very soon with more of Bocchi the Rock. Bye!